Guti, the flight that should have been just another flight. It was one of those mornings where you wake up and think, hey, maybe today won't completely suck. For Lucy Williams, a 28-year-old single mom, that thought felt like a rare gift. She'd been juggling 3 jobs, a sassy 5-year-old who thought broccoli was a government conspiracy, and a mountain of unpaid bills that could make the Empire State Building look short. But today, oh no, today was different. She was taking her son Jaden on his first ever flight. Destination? Miami. The kid had been begging to see the ocean ever since he saw Finding Nemo. Lucy wasn't exactly rolling in cash. The tickets? Scraped together from every overtime shift she could stomach at her night job as a nurse. Her life was basically a hamster wheel that sometimes caught fire, but today, she was determined to give Jaden a piece of normalcy. Something good. Something he'd remember for the rest of his life. So there they were, dragging their Walmart special carry-on through the bustling Atlanta airport. Jaden was clutching his stuffed dolphin, ironically named Sharky, and chattering nonstop about building the biggest sandcastle in the whole world. Lucy couldn't help but smile, even if her nerves were doing the cha-cha. She hated flying, always had. Something about being crammed into a tin can thousands of feet in the air made her question all her life choices. The airport circus begins. Mom? Do planes have bathrooms? Jaden asked loudly, drawing amused glances from nearby travelers. Yes, sweetie, Lucy replied, tugging him along the terminal. But if you think you're going to use it 500 times just to push every button in there, think again. They finally made it to the gate and Lucy breathed a sigh of relief. Jaden, of course, was already pointing out every single plane he could see through the giant glass windows. That one's gonna go super fast, he yelled, his enthusiasm earning a few chuckles from other passengers. Lucy gave an apologetic smile to anyone within earshot. At least he's not screaming or throwing Cheerios at strangers, she thought. Boarding was uneventful, thank God. Lucy and Jaden were seated near the back of the plane, which was fine by her. She didn't need to be near the fancy folks in first class sipping their overpriced champagne. Jaden pressed his face against the window, mesmerized by the ground crew bustling around the aircraft. Lucy leaned back in her seat, finally feeling like she could breathe. Maybe, just maybe, this trip would go smoothly. Enter Captain Asshole. But then he appeared, the pilot, Captain Richard Watson. Picture this. A tall, smug-looking guy with a jaw so tight it could probably crush walnuts. He walked down the aisle with the air of someone who thought he owned the place. Lucy barely noticed him at first. She was too busy helping Jaden buckle his seatbelt, because apparently seatbelts are a form of child torture. Then it happened. Richard's gaze landed on Lucy and lingered just a second too long. Not the, hey, I think I know you kind of stare, but the, you don't belong here kind. Lucy knew that look. She'd seen it a million times before. It was the look of someone who decided they knew everything about her just because of the color of her skin. She ignored him. She wasn't about to let some random dude ruin her day. But oh, Richard wasn't done. As he passed by, he muttered something under his breath. Too low for her to hear, but loud enough to make the hair on the back of her neck stand up. Lucy glanced around to see if anyone else caught it, but most people were too busy fiddling with their phones or trying to cram oversized bags into the overhead bins. Jaden, blissfully unaware, tugged at her sleeve. Mom, can we fly the plane? Lucy laughed, ruffling his curls. Not today, buddy. Maybe when you're older. The uneasy calm. The flight attendants were doing their pre-flight checks, smiling like they were auditioning for toothpaste commercials. Lucy tried to relax, but something felt off. Maybe it was Richard's lingering glare, or maybe it was just her overactive imagination. Either way, she couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was brewing. Jaden, on the other hand, was having the time of his life. Mom, do you think we'll see dolphins in Miami? Lucy smiled. Maybe, baby, but first we've got to get there. She glanced out the window, watching the airport workers scurry around like ants. For a moment, she let herself dream. Dream of turquoise waters, warm sand, and a few days where life didn't feel like one big uphill battle. But then the intercom crackled, and Richard's voice boomed through the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. This is your captain speaking. His tone was smooth, but Lucy couldn't help but hear the undercurrent of arrogance. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Focus on Jaden, focus on the trip. But deep down, she knew this flight was going to be anything but smooth. The sky's the limit. Or so she thought. The plane was almost ready to take off, and Lucy was starting to feel like maybe her nerves were playing tricks on her. Jaden was busy pressing every button on his armrest like he was launching a rocket, and she was too tired to argue. Let him have this, she thought. It wasn't every day a kid from their zip code got to fly anywhere but the moon in his dreams. The engines roared to life and Jaden's eyes widened like he'd just seen Santa Claus moonwalking. "Mom, we're moving," he squealed, pointing out the window like the plane itself needed directions. "Yeah, buddy," Lucy said with a soft smile, her voice barely above the growl of the turbines. "We're really doing this." But then, right when she thought things were finally settling, a shadow loomed over their row. Lucy looked up and locked eyes with Captain Richard Watson. Yes, the same guy who'd practically tried to laser beam her into the next dimension earlier. He wasn't supposed to be back here, was he? Pilots belonged in the cockpit, not doing creepy slow-motion walk-bys in economy class. The powder keg lights up. "Excuse me, ma'am," Richard said, his voice dripping with fake politeness. "Can I have a word with you?" Lucy blinked, caught completely off guard. Sure? Is there a problem?" Jaden, sensing something weird, hugged Sharky a little tighter. Lucy patted his knee, trying to calm both of them down. Richard's face twisted into a tight smile. "There's been a concern brought to my attention. I'm going to have to ask you and your son to disembark the aircraft." For a second, Lucy thought she'd misheard him. Disembark? Was he serious? "Wait, what?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Why? We're already buckled in. My kid's ready to go. What concern are you even talking about?" Richard crossed his arms, looking down at her like she was gum stuck to his shoe. "That's not up for discussion. Please gather your belongings and follow the flight attendant to the exit." The room goes silent. The chatter in the cabin stopped dead. You could have heard a pin drop, or in this case, the sound of Lucy's world cracking right in half. Heads started turning and whispers rippled through the rows like wildfire. A middle-aged man in the aisle across from them muttered, "What the hell is this?" loud enough for Lucy to hear. She wasn't the only one confused. "Excuse me, but this is absurd," Lucy said, her voice sharper now. "We've done nothing wrong. My son's 5 years old. What kind of concern could he possibly be causing? Did he look too excited for you? Blink too loudly?" Jaden tugged on her sleeve, his small voice trembling. "Mommy, are we in trouble?" "No, baby," she said, her heart breaking at the look in his eyes. "We're not in trouble. We're just dealing with someone who doesn't know how to do their job." Richard's smile disappeared. "Ma'am, I'm not going to repeat myself. If you refuse to cooperate, I'll be forced to involve security." Lucy hits boiling point. That was it. That was the spark that lit the fire. Lucy stood up, her hands gripping the armrests like she was steadying herself before a fight. "Involve security for what, huh? Because we had the audacity to sit here and exist? Because my son dared to have a window seat? Please, enlighten me, Captain." Her voice was loud now, loud enough to cut through the growing buzz of passengers murmuring in disbelief. The man who'd spoken earlier whipped out his phone, the unmistakable sound of a camera app snapping open. Other people followed suit. Phones were popping up all over the place, recording the scene like it was a live episode of America's Most Unhinged Airlines. "Ma'am," Richard said, his face now a shade of red that could rival a tomato. "This is not up for debate. Either you leave voluntarily or I'll make sure you're removed." "Oh, you're gonna make sure, huh?" Lucy shot back, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "What are you gonna do? Call the air marshal to tackle a single mom and her 5-year-old? That's a great look for you." Someone from a few rows back called out, "This is bullshit," another passenger added. "What's the reason, man? You can't just kick them off for no reason." Lucy's chest swelled with a mix of rage and fear. It wasn't just about her anymore. People were watching, recording, waiting to see how this would play out. Her son's small fingers gripped her hand, grounding her just enough to keep her from completely losing it. She wasn't about to back down, not now, not ever. But holy hell, her blood was boiling. Richard drops the pretense. Finally, Richard leaned in, his voice low but ice cold. "I don't owe you an explanation, but let's just say passengers have raised concerns about feeling uncomfortable. I'm ensuring their safety." There it was. The thinly veiled implication. The unspoken "you're not like us." And that's the problem. Lucy's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. Her grip on Jaden's hand tightened. She stared Richard down, refusing to break eye contact. "Uncomfortable? You mean because we're black?" The cabin erupted. Gasps, murmurs, and outright shouts of "What the hell, man?" echoed around them. The man with the phone was practically narrating the whole thing like it was breaking news. "Y'all seeing this? This pilot's straight up discriminating against them." The walk of shame, or so they thought. Lucy knew she had no choice but to move, for Jaden's sake. She grabbed their bag with shaking hands, her anger bubbling over into tears she refused to let fall. As she and Jaden walked down the aisle, she held her head high, even though every step felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of humiliation. Passengers shouted their support. "We've got your back, ma'am," one woman called. Another yelled, "Don't let this slide." But Lucy wasn't thinking about that yet. She was thinking about the look on Richard's face, the way he smirked as if he'd won some kind of power game. And she made a silent promise right then and there. This isn't over. The pressure cooker. Lucy sat outside the gate, her leg bouncing nervously, her mind a storm of anger and humiliation. Jaden clutched Sharky tightly, his big eyes filled with confusion. "Mommy, are we bad people?" he whispered. Lucy crouched down, her voice soft but firm. "No, baby, we're not bad. Sometimes bad people try to make us feel that way, but we don't let them win, okay?" Passengers began exiting the plane, and Lucy quickly noticed she wasn't the only one furious. A man in a baseball cap approached her holding his phone. "Ma'am, I got it all on video. That pilot? Out of line. You need to show this to someone." Lucy blinked, stunned. "You recorded it?" "Damn right I did," he said, nodding. "Someone's got to hold these jerks accountable." Others joined in, their voices loud with indignation. "This needs to go viral," said a younger guy in a hoodie. "Tag everyone, airlines, lawyers, news outlets." A woman chimed in. "We're with you. Don't let them get away with this." The confrontation at the gate? Before Lucy could process the outpouring of support, the gate agent Martha appeared. Her polite smile did little to hide her discomfort. "Miss Williams, I'd like to apologize for the inconvenience, but the captain has deemed it unsafe for you and your son to remain on this flight." Lucy's anger surged. "Unsafe? Did I threaten someone with a juice box? Did Sharky make a bomb threat?" Martha's smile faltered. "I assure you, race has nothing to do with this decision." Lucy stood, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "Don't insult me, Martha. We both know what this is about. And you think I'm just going to sit quietly and let it slide? Try again." The crowd erupted in support. "This is racist nonsense," someone shouted. Phones were out recording every word as Lucy pressed on. "You don't get to treat us like this and hide behind safety." Not today. Social media storm. Videos from the plane were already spreading across social media like wildfire. Hashtags like #flying, while black, and #justice. For Lucy began trending. People tagged airlines, activists, and media outlets. Someone sent Lucy a link to a video, and as she watched herself on screen, standing up to the pilot, a flicker of pride stirred in her chest. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about making sure no one else had to go through this. Corporate damage control. Before long, a tall man in a suit approached. His name tag read Regional Operations Manager, and his expression screamed damage control. "Miss Williams," he said, extending a hand, "I'm here to address the situation." Lucy didn't move. "Address it how? By offering me a drink coupon and a half-assed apology? Save it." The man hesitated. "We'll be launching a full investigation into Captain Watson's actions." "An investigation?" Lucy cut him off, laughing bitterly. "You mean you'll give him a slap on the wrist and send him to some diversity seminar? Meanwhile, my son and I miss our trip. That's your idea of accountability?" The crowd murmured in agreement, their phones still capturing every moment. The man shifted uncomfortably under their watchful eyes. "Lucy takes charge?" Lucy stepped closer, her voice steady but commanding. "Here's how you fix this. Put us on the next flight. First class. And pray this doesn't hit the news, because if it does, your airline's reputation is going straight into the toilet." The man, clearly cornered, glanced at the recording phones and the angry faces around him. Finally, he nodded. "We'll make arrangements immediately." Lucy didn't relax. She didn't celebrate. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. This was just the beginning. The shocking finale. Lucy and Jaden were finally seated in the waiting area for their new flight, this time in first class. An arrangement the airline scrambled to make. Jaden was still clutching Sharky, but his excitement had dimmed, replaced by confusion and exhaustion. Lucy sat tall, her phone buzzing with notifications as the videos of their ordeal spread like wildfire. The hashtags #flyingwhileblack and #justice for Lucy were trending, and news outlets were already reaching out. The arrest. Suddenly, a commotion near the gate drew everyone's attention. Captain Richard Watson, flanked by 2 federal agents, was being escorted through the terminal. His face was a mix of anger and disbelief. Lucy overheard snippets, something about prior complaints, improper conduct, and wait for it, a federal investigation. One of the agents approached Lucy. "Miss Williams, thank you for your patience. We've received numerous reports about this pilot, and today's incident confirmed his pattern of discriminatory behavior. He's been removed from duty and is now under investigation." Lucy's heart pounded, but she kept her composure. "Good," she said simply. "That's the least he deserves." The crowd cheers. As Richard was led past, the crowd erupted in applause. Passengers from her flight cheered and shouted their support. The man in the baseball cap gave her a thumbs up. "Told you, ma'am, justice is sweet." Lucy turned to Jaden and knelt down. "See, baby? When bad things happen, we stand up and we fight back." The aftermath. By the time Lucy and Jaden boarded their new flight, she was already receiving messages of support from strangers online. News outlets were running stories about the incident, using the footage passengers had shared. Lucy wasn't just a passenger anymore. She'd become a symbol of resilience and justice. As the plane took off, Jaden finally smiled, looking out the window. "Mommy, are we going to see the ocean?" Lucy smiled back, her eyes filled with determination. "Yes, baby. And we're going to show the world we belong everywhere." The fight wasn't over, but Lucy knew one thing for sure. She'd made them listen, and they'd never forget it. Thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to this story. We truly hope you enjoyed it and that it left you thinking. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, Life Mosaic, where we bring you the most captivating and thought-provoking stories every day. We're here for you, and your support means the world to us. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow with another incredible story.